The morning sun had just broken through the horizon, casting long, golden streaks across a quiet roadside diner on the edge of nowhere. Steam rose from coffee cups, and the metallic purr of motorcycle engines rumbled low beneath the soft hum of country radio. The air was thick with the scent of bacon grease, diesel, and leather, a familiar perfume to the band of Hell's Angels parked out front. They looked every bit the part. Tattoos, vests, boots worn by miles of dust and asphalt. The kind of men the world judged without a word. But beneath those rough exteriors were hearts that had known pain, loss, and brotherhood. Then, out of nowhere, a scream ripped through the still morning air. A piercing, desperate cry that cut through the chatter and laughter like shattered glass. Every head turned. From across the parking lot, a tiny figure came running, barely 10 years old. A red dress torn at the hem, boots too big for her feet, and light brown hair tangled and wild. Her cheeks were streaked with dirt and tears, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Please," she screamed, pointing down the road. "They're hurting my mama! Please, somebody help her!" The laughter died instantly. Even the engines seemed to fall silent. The world froze on that sound, the sound of a child's fear. Truckers by the gas pumps shifted awkwardly, eyes darting, but no one moved. No one except one man, Mason Cole. Broad-shouldered, eyes like steel, his jacket marked with the red and white patch of the Hell's Angels. A man who had seen blood, betrayal, and the worst of humanity. But in that moment, he saw something that pierced through the walls he'd built over years of chaos. Innocence in distress. He knelt, meeting the girl's trembling gaze. "Where's your mama?" he asked, his voice low but steady. The little girl pointed again, tears spilling freely. "Down that road, trailer park by the trees. They're beating her." Mason stood, his jaw tightened. Tank, rider, gear up. Engines roared to life. The calm of morning shattered as 3 bikers mounted their Harleys and tore down the road, dust swirling behind them like a trail of vengeance. The girl's name was Lily, just 10 years old. Her mama, Sarah, worked nights at the diner, saving every penny to keep a roof over their heads after her husband left. She was kind, too kind, the kind who believed everyone deserved a second chance. That kindness became her weakness when she took in her ex's brother, Rick, a man with a mean streak and a thirst for control. For months, he'd made their lives hell, his fists louder than his words. And that morning, when Sarah tried to defend her daughter, the violence escalated. That's when Lily ran. Barefoot at first, then into her little boots, sprinting through the cold morning air toward the only place she saw people who looked strong enough to help. Rick was the kind of man who fed off fear. His eyes, small and mean, glinted with the satisfaction of power. He thought no one would dare step between him and his rage. A man like him counted on silence. When the sound of 3 roaring motorcycles echoed down the road toward his trailer, he smirked, until he saw the men stepping off their bikes. Leather, tattoos, patches, Hell's Angels, and Mason Cole leading them. Mason's boots crunched against gravel as he approached the trailer. From inside came the sound of shouting, something crashing, a woman's cry for mercy. He didn't knock. He kicked the door open. Rick turned, a beer bottle still in his hand, his knuckles bloody. Sarah lay on the floor, her cheeks swollen, arms raised defensively. Mason's voice was a storm. "That's enough." Rick sneered. "Who the hell are you supposed to be?" Mason stepped forward slowly, his eyes locked on him. "The man who's going to make you stop." Rick laughed, taking a swing with the bottle, but Mason caught his wrist mid-air, twisting it until the bottle shattered on the floor. In one move, he shoved him against the wall. "Listen close," Mason growled. "You ever touch her or that little girl again, you'll have the whole brotherhood knocking at your door." The other bikers stood behind him, silent, arms crossed, steel and fury wrapped in leather. Rick's arrogance melted into fear. He nodded, his voice shaking. All right, all right." Mason released him and helped Sarah to her feet. "You okay, ma'am?" She nodded weakly, tears spilling down her face. "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would come." He gave her a faint smile. "You called, sweetheart. Just didn't use a phone." As they walked outside, police sirens wailed in the distance. One of the truckers had called them after seeing the bikers tear off. When officers arrived, they found Rick still cowering inside, and Sarah giving her statement, her hand held gently by her daughter. The cops looked surprised. Hell's Angels weren't usually the ones saving people. One officer approached Mason cautiously. "You did good today," he said, almost reluctantly. Mason just shrugged. Wasn't for the badge. Was for the kid. Lily ran to him then, wrapping her small arms around his waist. "Thank you, mister," she whispered. For a man who'd spent his life fighting demons, that hug felt like salvation. Rick was arrested that morning. Sarah and Lily were taken to safety. The story spread across town, how a gang of bikers had done what no one else dared. Days later, Mason returned to the diner. Sarah was back behind the counter, bruises fading, eyes brighter. She poured him a coffee and smiled. "I owe you more than I can ever repay." Mason shook his head. "You don't owe me a thing. Just keep being kind. The world needs more of that." Outside, Lily waved from the window, a small smile lighting up her face. Mason lifted his hand in return, the sunlight glinting off his rings. That day proved something simple yet powerful. Heroes don't always wear uniforms or shine under spotlights. Sometimes they ride in leather and carry scars that remind them what pain feels like. Because kindness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from those who've been broken and still choose to help anyway.